All right, let's dive in. Today we're looking at a really powerful message, one that was sent to a group of believers who are under some serious pressure in a very powerful city. It's a letter all about suffering, about what it means to be truly rich, and it ends with a promise so incredible that it still speaks to us today, almost 2,000 years later.
So this message we're talking about is actually one of 7 that the Apostle John recorded in the book of Revelation. Each one was sent to a specific church in what was then called Asia Minor. But really, the whole collection was meant as a complete message for all believers. Today, though, we're zeroing in on that second letter, the one that went to the church in the strategic, bustling port city of Smyrna.
And what a city it was! I mean, Smyrna was known as the Jewel of Asia. It was a major port city, so important that it was a direct rival to the great city of Ephesus. It had been destroyed by an earthquake and then completely rebuilt, which made it one of the few planned cities in the ancient world. Super impressive. But here's the catch. It was also a fanatical center for Roman emperor worship, and that created a really dangerous, high-pressure world for the early Christians living there.
So the message kicks off by immediately establishing who's speaking. The title, The First and the Last, is a declaration of ultimate authority. But then you get this phrase, who is dead and is alive. This is just so powerful because it offers this profound empathy. Think about it. This isn't some distant king speaking from on high. This is someone who has personally faced death, conquered it, and is now speaking directly to people who are facing that very same threat.
And this brings us right to the heart of what life was like for the believers in Smyrna. Their reality was this huge, jarring paradox. On the one hand, they were dealing with immense suffering, but on the other, they possessed this incredible spiritual wealth.
The message doesn't beat around the bush. It starts with this simple, powerful acknowledgement. I know. There's no sugarcoating what they're going through. He sees their works, their tribulation, which means this crushing, intense pressure, and he sees their material poverty. Their suffering was absolutely real, and the first thing they hear is, I see it.
And then, boom, this incredible pivot. In the very same breath, right after acknowledging their poverty in the world's eyes, the message declares, but you are rich. This just completely reframes their entire existence, doesn't it? It's saying their true value wasn't in their bank accounts or their social status, it was in their spiritual state. And in that department, they were considered unbelievably wealthy.
Now, part of their suffering came from a very specific source. The message calls out a group who claimed a Jewish heritage but were actively persecuting the believers. This really gives you a window into those painful early divisions that were happening in Roman cities. So this wasn't just about being poor. It was targeted, hostile pressure, socially and religiously, coming from their own neighbors.
So the message shifts here. It moves from acknowledging their current pain to getting them ready for a future trial. And this isn't the promise that, hey, things are about to get easier. Not at all. It's a direct call for them to get ready, to steel themselves for what was coming, framing it as a test of their faithfulness that had a clear endpoint.
The warning is very specific. Fear not, it says, right before telling them that some of them are literally going to be thrown in prison. This whole thing is called a trial, a test. And notice the time frame, 10 days. Now, this likely means a short, specific, but very intense period of suffering. The point is to emphasize that their trial, no matter how hard it got, was not going to last forever.
And here it is, the ultimate challenge. Be faithful not just when things are hard, but be faithful unto death. You have to understand, this was not some abstract idea. The famous bishop of Smyrna, a man named Polycarp, was later martyred right in this city because he refused to renounce his faith. So for the people hearing this message, the price of being faithful was a very real life or death possibility.
So, after confronting the harsh reality of their suffering and calling them to endure it, the entire focus of the message shifts. It turns completely toward the reward, to the incredible promise that was waiting for anyone who held on and stayed true.
You see, Smyrna was famous for its athletic games, and in those games, the winners got a crown made of olive leaves. It was a huge honor, but it was a temporary symbol of a temporary victory. It would fade and wither. The Apostle Paul actually used this same analogy. They weren't being asked to run a race for a corruptible crown that dies, but for an incorruptible one. The promise here was for something infinitely greater, something eternal. And here's the promise itself. The reward for being faithful, even to the point of giving up your life, isn't just a trophy or some kind of medal. It is the crown of life. It's eternal life itself, the ultimate victory over the very thing they were being threatened with.
The message to Smyrna wraps up with one final, mind-blowing promise.
It goes beyond just physical life and physical death and points to something much, much deeper. So what exactly is this second death that they're being promised victory over?
Well, later on in the book of Revelation, we actually get a clear definition. The second death isn't the physical death of our bodies. It's an eternal, spiritual death. It's the final, permanent separation from God for the unrighteous after the final judgment. It's the fate of, well, everlasting destruction.
And that leads us to this, the final, triumphant promise to that suffering church in Smyrna. For those who overcome, for those who stay faithful through the poverty, the persecution, even through martyrdom, they are guaranteed complete and total immunity from that eternal judgment. They shall not be hurt of the second death. In the face of every threat they could possibly imagine, this was the ultimate promise of security and of eternal life.